and raised in Miami. So were my parents. My parents actually grew up in Westchester. They both graduated from Coral Park. That's where they fell in love. So we are through and through 305 family. But growing up in South Florida and growing up in Miami, I'm from the Jewish faith. And they taught me some fundamental, lessons in life. And one of them is Tikkun Olam, otherwise known as to heal the world. This is our calling card as a people. And it is a reason why I do what I do every single day. This is why I was in high school doing Habitat for Humanity and soup kitchens down at Camilla's house, and going into community service organizations and going to civil rights parades when I was in high school, to my entire life of service to our state and to the people that live here. And it's also really important and something that I have been defending too for my entire career, and is making sure that we are ensuring everyone has the right to vote and has access to the ballot box, because without that, we don't have a democracy. All the things that we fight for, all the things that we talk about, all of the hopes and promises and dreams of what the American dream is about can't happen if we don't have democracy. And if we don't have the right to vote and have access to the ballot box, then we don't have a democracy. I won in 2018, as you just heard, as the only Democrat to get over the finish line by 6,753 votes. I know how much every single vote matters and how we've got to value every single vote. We all know this, and I'm going to be preaching to the choir here, literally, that we know that so many Americans have fought, have bled, have died for our civil rights, and to make sure that in the eyes of the law, that everybody is deemed equal. But unfortunately, those rights are under attack once again, particularly at the ballot box. I will always stand on the side of expanding our civil rights, not limiting them. You can see what I've been doing as even commissioner, as a member of the clemency board, the fact that I campaigned on, Amendment 4 and the restoration of civil rights. I've been pushing these issues and trying to get the governor, which, he did make some changes after 2.5 years of my pushing, but certainly not to the full extent of which it needed to have been. But these are things that I stand up for and I fight. Even my time when I was first out of law school, one of the first things I did was volunteered in 2004 to be a voter protection attorney up in Duval when I was working in the law firm up there. These are important issues that we have to continue to fight for. And so when I'm governor, I'm going to make sure that we are bringing back our Black congressional districts. I'm still flabbergasted at what happened during this drawing of congressional maps. The first time in modern history that a governor comes in and selects and submits his own congressional maps. And when the legislature said no go gov, he vetoed it, brought everybody back up for a special session, costing you and me dollars to bring everybody back up for a sham of a special session, just so they can now pass the governor's maps. And when the governor filed those maps on Martin Luther King Day, I was the first one who said, this is not about power. This is not about his ego. He has a vision, and that vision is tearing apart the Voting Rights Act. And now he wants to use these congressional maps to go after the minority access districts. And so I was so proud to watch our Black House delegation, our House members on the floor on that special session and protesting and standing up. They left everything on the field. And so much so that next day I endorsed every one of them and every other member of the Democratic caucus that stood and protested with him on the floor and was able to help financially. I will make sure as governor that gets reversed, and that we can do whatever we need to do to make sure that there is Black representation in Congress, and that we actually need to expand the amount of access, not limit them. I will also expand access to the mail-in ballots. We saw how much Democrats utilize that in both 2018 and 2020. So what does Republicans do? Oh, we can't let them win. We can't let them gain here on the mail-in ballots. So we're going to pull it back. Well, we got to go move forward again. We got to make it easier. We got to make it easier on the people that want to take that option and not feel like they have to go into a voting booth and go in person. I also fundamentally believe that we need to have an automatic voter registration to anyone when they seek their driver's licenses. So whether they're coming here into our state or when they first become 16 years old and get their driver's license, this is something that should be done automatically. Engagement is essential for our democracy. We also need to implement same-day voter registration for those who may not have sought after a driver's license or who are just coming into our state. We need to pass laws to prevent voter fraud, not these laws that the Republicans have been doing for the last 2 years, not a new police force to go after election fraud, except for those of ghost candidates that the Republicans are doing. So any of the actual fraud that's happening, that's not going to be protected and fought and tried to take down from the governor's new policing. But we actually need to pass laws to prevent voter fraud. And we need to make Election Day a state holiday. Every voter, including working people, should have the best possible opportunities to cast their ballots. I mean, I remember going as a young girl to vote with my mom after school. And it's such an exciting day, and to take kids to vote with their parents and see what that's like. I still to this day remember the first time that I went into a voting booth with her. And so we need to make sure that everybody's got that opportunity on the day of, to be able to have that as a national holiday, so we can celebrate our democracy. We have got to stay engaged in this fight. And this is so important. We are not just fighting the Republicans of today and Ron DeSantis of today. We have to remember that we are fighting the accumulation of 4 Republican governors in a row, 14 speakers of the House in a row, 13 Senate presidents. So what have we been getting for all of that? 47th in the nation when it comes to funding of our education system, an economy that is making our state the most unaffordable state in the nation. Ron DeSantis has made Florida, California, and New York when it comes to our economic policies. We see buildings collapsing in Miami because we haven't dealt with some of our condo laws and of sea level rising and some of the other issues that comes with infrastructure changes. There are so many issues that are actually impacting people's lives every single day. And we have a governor who's completely tone deaf, and an entire legislature who just wants to worry about their next reelect. So we need to change this. We have had, again, one party control of the most important offices of our state. We can't afford to lose this election. We can't. And besides all the things that I've just been talking about, all the things that if this is not a wake-up call of what happened last week with the proposed Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, I need people to understand what impact that is going to have on women all across our country, specifically our minority women and those women who can't financially afford to leave their state. And even still today, some of those states and the South are talking about saying that an abortion is murder. And if you dare cross state lines to another state, they're still going to charge you with murder. This is where we are in our society. And if we don't have federal regulations and federal protections, then it is so much more important that we know who our governor is, that we know that we have a governor who's going to stand up for our rights, who's going to protect us, to make sure that we don't go backwards. And let me tell you something else. The biggest concern outside of all of that, of reversal of Roe v. Wade, because we also know that unfortunately, that the women are going to still have abortions. Now it's going to be unsafe abortions. But take it one step further. What that opinion alludes to is that the fundamentals of what created Roe v. Wade is the right to privacy. And if that gets dismantled, and that is the floor, and that crumbles, all of the other issues that have been cited on that right to privacy, everything from segregation to interracial marriage, to gay adoption, gay marriage, contraceptives, IUD, like everything is potentially on the chopping block. Brown versus Board of Education. All of these issues that we all thought were settled law are potentials for reversal. And so it is so important that we are able to have a Democrat in the governor's mansion, somebody who has been that fierce fighter, who is going to stand up for our rights. And in fact, I have proposed that I will have the full weight of the governor's office to make sure that we have a constitutional amendment on the 2024 ballot to create and expand our right to privacy and to make sure that we are protecting a woman's right to decide what is best for herself and for her body. I know that we can do this. I know that we've got the fight, Democrats. I know that we do this, especially in our South Dade and North Dade Black Caucus. I know that we can do this, but it's going to take all of us rolling up our sleeves. It's going to take all of us getting people registered to vote, talking to them, getting them to the polls, talking to our neighbors, talking to people inside of our churches, talking to the community organizers, because there's so much on the line. I know we hear this election after election, that this is the most important election of our lifetime. This one is. This one is saying, where are we as a nation? Where are we going to go? Which direction? Are we moving backwards? Or are we going to move forward together? And I believe in us as Floridians. I believe in what we can do, because I believe in Tikkun Olam, to heal the world. We all may call it something different, but Floridians know what is right and what is wrong. And we have to take back our government. We have to take back our state and finally put the people first. So I'm asking you to join with me, to try something new and to make history by electing the first female governor of our state. So thank you. God bless. Let's go and win this thing.
Thank you so much. I know our time is limited with you today, but I would like to ask you just one or two questions that came from our members. One of them specifically that you kind of touched base on, but everybody though knows that Miami-Dade County is quite big, but we are also diverse within ourselves. Our sister chapter has different needs than the South Dade. As you know, you've been here several times as the Commissioner of Agriculture, that we do have an ag community and North Dade really doesn't. So what do you have any comprehensive plans regarding the economic disparity in the Black community? And you can break it up into North Dade and South Dade, or however you like.
No, I think that it goes down to, what we've been doing, and for not only as, on the campaign, but even in, my 3.5 years as commissioner, is we listened. We listened to hear the voices and to hear from the people that are on the ground on what are some of the issues, what is holding people back. And the consistent drumbeat, whether you're North Dade or South Dade, is economic opportunity. That we are seeing, we, and hearing it from the ag perspective, that so many of our Black farmers, we used to have tens of thousands of Black farmers in the state of Florida. We're down to less than 300. And that's because they haven't been able to get access to whether it is USDA grants or it is private loans from, farm credit bureaus. And so there has been an inequity when it comes to even disbursement of grants and dollar money, even in the ag industry. And so we have been really working hard with the USDA, calling out the state banks that have been hurting a lot of our minority farmers. We, in fact, did an entire internal working group with our Office of Financial Regulation, showing ways in which we can enforce and to encourage our state banks to do a better job on giving out more equitable on their money. But the other thing that we talk a lot about too is what happens on our state contracts. There's all this money that goes out from our state contracts. And unfortunately, when you look at the numbers, I think the number is, it has to be like 11% have to be Hispanic, 9% women, 6% Black. First of all, it doesn't even make any sense. Second of all, that should be a very, 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 very low floor, not the ceiling. And so when you come in and you have a different set of eyes and a different perspective of how our state grant dollars should be given out and how to make sure that they're more equitable, and that leadership comes from the top, then you're hiring people that are going to be looking from a different perspective to make sure that these contracts are given out equitably. The other thing is to make sure that we have from the governor's office, that we have actual regional coordinators that are going around our state, talking to our minority groups, to our small business owners, teaching them how to write these grants. because they are very complicated. And in our Hispanic community, there's a language barrier a lot of times. And so we need to make sure that we are breaking down those barriers, that we are engaging and helping people understand the process. The other thing is to bring new economies into our state. And look, I'm going to be always very protective of agriculture. And what we've been trying to do inside of agriculture is really make sure that ag is more profitable. So that way that people are not forced to, or feel forced to have to sell their land, and they keep it inside of agriculture. Because look, if South Dade loses agriculture, they're the second largest, part of our state that is involved in ag. Palm Beach County is number 1, and South Dade is number 2. And we feed 150 million people across the entire country every single year. That's 2 million jobs. That is about $160 billion of economic impact in our state. Ag has to be surviving. And so even though I'm going from ag to governor, I take with me all of the issues and all the things that I've been learning inside of ag and things that I've been fighting for. And now I get the full weight of the governor's office to start really moving the needle on some of these issues and finding ways to lift up. The other thing is bringing in new industries into our state. We have seen that the Republicans have kept out the film industry by cutting all of the incentives from the film industry. That was basically a $4 billion industry that was lost to Georgia. What does Georgia have that we don't, besides tax incentives? And a lot of that film industry was in South Florida, was in Dade County. And so that is good paying jobs. That's economic opportunities. That's our restaurants, our hotels. That's people that want to just, work on the sets. And so this way you're bringing the industry back and you're lifting up the people and making sure that part of those contracts that they're hiring local. And that is a really important aspect too. So that way you're rising and raising people up. The second issue of industries, we got to legalize cannabis here in the state of Florida. How many billions upon billions upon billions of dollars are we losing because we don't have it legalized? This is good paying jobs that gives people an opportunity to get involved in a very green, lucrative industry. This is opportunities for taxable revenue. And when we get that taxable revenue, we get to invest in our education, affordable housing, and into communities that have been targeted by the war on drugs, which is a lot of times our Black and brown communities, and being able to take those dollars and invest them directly into those communities. There are so many things that we can do, but we got to change leadership in Tallahassee, and we're just getting started. I mean, the ideas that I get flowed into me every single day as I'm touring the state, I keep a notebook with me and I jot them all down. They're part of the proposals and my platform, but we got to change Tallahassee first.
No, I totally agree. You touched on it a little bit, and hopefully you can, you talked about legalization of marijuana or cannabis. But that the Black and brown community has been most affected by getting arrested and jail time for these petty crimes that involve marijuana. So do you have any plans that you can share with us regarding that we can, because the clemency, as you know, a couple of years ago made the process a lot longer. So can you just elaborate on anything you have on that?
Yes. As you all know, this is one of my policy issues that I've been fighting on for decades at this point. As a past public defender, I saw it firsthand. I saw how many of my clients were being either arrested for simple possession charges, and I saw what was happening on the ground. I saw that they were using it as probable cause. The odor of cannabis was detected, and then that was the probable cause to do whatever search that they wanted to do afterwards. And then it was my client's word versus the officer's word, even though they didn't find a joint or any bags in the car or on them. And so this is something that has been in my line of vision of having to fix and having to change. And so I am fully in support. I mean, I'm working on trying to get it done on the federal level, but at the state level, we've got to get it legalized. We've got to expunge records for anybody who has a past conviction for any type of nonviolent marijuana charges. This way, this is an opportunity. Again, you hear the economic opportunities that are out there. This is a criminal justice reform, social justice reform, and we also in the marijuana space, once we get to legalization, that we have to take that checkbox off these applications. Because in order for people to truly be able to get into the industry, even if you have a past criminal record, even if you have a past conviction, you should not be precluded from getting involved in the industry that puts you behind bars to begin with. That why is it that only that white men across the country can make money where Black and brown men in the state of Florida across the country are still in jail and prison for? So we got to let everybody out. We got to expunge, and we need to give opportunities as we legalize to make sure that those that want to participate in the legal marketplace have this opportunity. And it also decreases crime overall, because now when you're getting rid of the illegal marketplace, you're seeing less violence because people are not sitting there and getting involved in the illegal trade. That way, you're getting everybody into it, getting everybody legal. You're making sure that there's economic opportunities, taxable revenue, decreasing the cost of our criminal justice system. Again, more money now that can go into our community. And of course, is also a healthcare reform. More people getting off of pharmaceutical drugs, getting opportunities to get onto legal. So I've got lots of ideas and policies. There's probably not a single person in the entire country who understands the moving parts of legalization better than I do. Everything from what holds people up to access to capital, to taxable issues, to banking, employment status, housing. There are so many inequities when it comes to this one plant that we've got to right during our generation.
Thank you so much. And one of our last questions, many of our members are retired school teachers. You talked about education a little bit earlier, but one of the things that was done a couple of years ago was the Florida Lottery. Everybody always talks about how the Florida Lottery is for education. But for those of you that really track it, understand that a lot of the money goes back to the general pot. So one of the questions that they ask is, what would you do to help reallocate those funds back to schools or programs for education?
Absolutely. Look, I as my parents went to Carl Park, again, public school. I graduated from Miami Palmetto. So that was also, I still get chills thinking that our newest Supreme Court justice came also from Miami Palmetto. And so education is near and dear to my heart. My mom was a teacher. This is important. My niece and nephew are in public education in Palm Beach County. And so you're right. They played this fun little shell game. Where they have said, the lottery is going to be great. It's going to add all this money into it. And so the lottery money is there. But what they did was they then took the other money and they reallocated it. They play this little game that's what happens in Tallahassee. And so we have to do is go back to the fundamentals. And that is per pupil funding that we've seen in 2006 or 2009. It was about $6,400 per pupil. We're at $6,900. If you look at inflation over the last 15, 20 years, it should be over $10,000 per pupil. So the commitment that I make to the people of our state is that by the time I am done being governor in my first 4 years, we will double the amount of allocation to our public schools. So per pupil funding will double during my 4 years, and making sure that, look, we all know that at this point we've got charter schools and we've got schools of choice. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. There are children and families that are benefiting from these opportunities, but we need to make sure that it's not hurting our public institutions. And it's showing that there's parity, whether it is on contracts, whether it is on building, whether it's on curriculum. Most people don't know that all of these atrocious pieces of legislation that they have passed over the few years that is dictating what happens inside of our classrooms, what you can and cannot say, what you can and cannot teach, doesn't apply to charter schools. What does that say? So I think that we've got a lot of work to do. I'm laser focused on education, because if we don't teach our kids and we don't give them a proper education and we don't invest in them and don't make them feel like we are investing in them, because a lot of it is about, that you feel that you're valued, then we're not developing and creating an electorate and a citizenship that is going to get better paying jobs and can be productive members of our society. In fact, I was with an incredible guy yesterday out in St. Pete. He's a barber, and he has created a reading program. It's basically he's creating his own library and book program, and that every kid that comes into the barber shop, he gets them a book and they read. And so then they leave with that book, and he's helping to create libraries in these kids' school and their homes. And the statistic that he and I were talking about, that if a third grader is, and we're talking statistics in the Black community, that if a third grader is reading below the poverty line by third grade, there is a 90% chance that they end up in the prison system. And so if we don't talk about educating and creating literacy at an early age and making sure that we've got an education system that is supporting it, we know what's happening in our school systems and we know what the future of those children are. And so we've got to go back to the basics and teach the fundamentals, make sure that we are creating an educational environment that everybody has an opportunity to succeed in life.
Thank you so much. Like I said, we know our time is limited with you, so I'm going to just take a personal point of privilege before I go to the last question, which my son is a Panther, so he's excited for you as well. So there you go. But since you did talk about, just economic growth and a few other things, but one thing that's been happening, it's in the news, we're talking about it now, it's the rise of rents, the rise of the decline of home ownerships and the unreachable amount. And with that, it's like a two-parter. What do you have planned with that? And also the Sadowski Trust, which is supposed to help with housing, but many of us know that throughout the years, it's been siphoned. So tell us your plans about how you can help us now, either the rent and or home ownership, and then of course, what do you plan with regarding the Sadowski Trust?
It all kind of comes in the same conversation. So what's happened is that for 25 years, we have been gutting, and the Sadowski Fund is the Affordable Trust Fund that is supposed to be utilized to build more homes. And collectively now, we have gutted $2.3 billion from starting with Jeb. So Jeb and Charlie and Rick and Ron have all gutted the Sadowski Fund to equate to $2.3 billion. Can you imagine how many homes and complexes could have been built in that time period with that type of money? And including federal government money that was supposed to come down that was turned back around under DeSantis because he didn't know how to administer it. So one promise is any budget that comes to my desk that touches one penny of that Sadowski Fund, I will veto the entire budget, because we've got to stop this. We got to put the money towards what it needs to do, and that is building out our supply. And so what's happened is, because we don't have a supply problem, we have an increasing demand, because we know that the Republicans have been bringing people into our state. The statistics is, 1,000 people a day, moving to the state of Florida. Where are they moving to? And they're coming in, and they're coming in with a lot of cash from California and from New York, or they got money from, President Trump's administration when they gave out all this money during the pandemic. And they're coming down and they're buying at the top of the market, and then they're crushing the bottom of the market. And so that's what's happening. And then you've got predatory landlords, because that's what they are, that are increasing rent 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% in some parts of our state. That is not inflation. That is price gouging. And so day one of my administration, I declare a housing emergency. I've been asking DeSantis to do this now for months. He refuses to even talk about it. He wants to blame President Biden for this. This is not what DC's fault. This is clearly a Florida specific issue that we are now ranked #1 for unaffordability. That is not DC. That is Tallahassee. And so we need to have a state of emergency for housing. That gives me the opportunity to allow the Attorney General and state attorneys to start going after these predatory landlords for price gouging, because that's what it is. Two, then we also have the opportunity to work with our local governments who can work through zoning and planning and affordable housing at a local level and all the other tools that our local governments have, but because of Tallahassee have been handcuffed. And then three, we need to make sure that we are dealing with the actual home ownership and programs to be put into place, because look, the American dream at the end of the day is still to be able to purchase your own home. And so many of our Floridians, whether it is those that are, fresh out of school, starting a new family, or to our seniors, they can't afford the rent. I mean, the property and taxes increases, the property insurance. And so one of the things that we're also proposing is to see an increase of our homestead exemption from 50,000 to 100,000. That will be the largest tax cut in Florida's history, and it will happen under a Governor Freed administration. There's a lot of things that we can do. I wish that I was already governor to start working on some of these things. All I can do is start to come up with ideas, work with our local governments, and hope that elections happen sooner than later.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you have to go, but I would like to give you a few more minutes. And also, if you can, just for courtesy's sake, if you can tell us a little bit more about Malcolm, since we will be mostly communicating with him, and he has been great with both our caucuses. But for our members that will be on the ground, they know that they'll be seeing him. So if you can give him a little nod.
Yes, well, Malcolm, you've been part of our team now for what, 6 months, give or take?
I would love to say that it has been that long.
I feel like it's been that long.
It's been that long. I've been here since mid-March, and every step of the way. Yeah, it's been an amazing experience. I will definitely say that. Thank you to the commissioner. Thank you to Venus. And I've said this to the commissioner, I'll say it in any space that I'm in. I don't take for granted, just as a young man, just as a young Black man, the position that I sit in to reach out and connect with communities. And so, just as the commissioner wants to be our advocate in the governor's mansion up in Tallahassee, I want to be your advocate within this potential administration, and so I want to be your direct pipeline to the commissioner. If you have a desire, if you want to set up an event, if you want to connect with us, please, Venus has my number. I'll drop it in this chat afterwards. I'm sorry, this night was supposed to be for the commissioner, but yes, I'm just super excited to continue to develop this relationship and just power us through this primary and through this general election, because I'm personally super excited about something new. It brings a smile to my face. Again, thank you to the commissioner. Thank you to Venus. Thank you to Verlance for setting up this evening. Thank you to everyone that showed up. I know in this age of virtual meetings, it can be difficult, but y'all are leaning in and y'all are tuning in. And so we definitely appreciate you.
And Malcolm, I appreciate you, seeing such incredible talent. I'm looking forward to the day that he runs for office, because that's happening. That is happening one day. And so he is a great leader already on this campaign. And he certainly will have an a huge role, not only in the campaign transition and in our administration, because it is our administration. I take that very seriously. I don't forget where I came from. I don't forget who came with me. And I make sure that all the voices that need to be heard have a seat at the table, because that's who I am. That is who I've always been. I'm not a career politician. I'm not somebody who is going to be running for office in the next 20, 30 years. I'm somebody who wants to come in. I see problems in our society that I want to fix. I want partners with me to come on this journey, and we can't do it without you. And I say this consistently too. I know that I won in 2018 because of the work that you all did and the work that you all did on the ground. I don't take that for granted. I know that we all had hoped that we got Andrew over the finish line, that we were able to keep Senator Nelson and the rest of the executive ticket. But I'm humbled by the fact that I know that I did not do that alone. And that it was all of you who came out there, who worked the polls, who worked in their communities, turned out the vote, and we did it. And we absolutely will do it again in 2022.
I think we can. And before I let you go, and I do apologize, my sister from our North chapter, our Miami Dade Black Caucus chapter, her hand is raised, so I would love to leave her the floor. Verlance, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? I hope all is well.
Good evening.
Malcolm, I do need to speak with you because I received several calls and I made contact with Nikki Barnes, Mrs. Barnes. They want to sit with the commissioner soon as possible. These are some strong supporters up here in our community. So, Malcolm, if you can give me a call, reach out to me. I don't have a contact number to reach out to you. They wanted to meet with her next week, Tuesday, but I understand the commissioner has a busy schedule. So, if you could just reach out and let's make contact so we can make some arrangement so we can make it happen, please. Thank you.
Yes,
love you guys.
yes, Verlance, we definitely will. Thank you for that. Commissioner, I know you have another meeting after this, so this is my virtual, pull for you. Yeah. But yes, Verlance, thank you for that information. And that's what I do. I'm outreach and engagement. So I will get in contact with you and we will see about setting something up. If not for this upcoming Tuesday, definitely in the near future. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for doing your job, Malcolm. I love it. I love it. I love it. Commissioner, thank you again for your time. It has been a pleasure. I've had the opportunity to hear from you a few times, but thank you for taking the time to sit with both our sister chapter caucuses in Miami-Dade. And, we look forward to seeing you in Orlando in 2 weeks.
Yes,
Or are we
absolutely. Okay, we can have. Well, stay safe, everyone, and I will see you in Orlando or on the campaign trail. Take care, everyone. Thanks for tonight. Take care.
And for those of you stayed on, again, this is Malcolm. If you have any questions to get his information, you're more than welcome to get. He's provided it in the chat. But Malcolm, again, you can verbally say what you would like to say to our members. And thank you again for setting this up for us.
Yes, no, it's a collective effort at this point. And I think what I want to see more than anything, particularly for our Black Floridians, is to lean into this campaign and really demand the kinds of policies and the kinds of actions that you want to see in a freed administration. And I think that's something she is extremely receptive to. She's created entire advisory councils for our Hispanic community, for women. We have a Black advisory council. We're going to be launching our environmental advisory council. And all of these are to signal that, yes, she has her own ideas and passions, but she is extremely responsive to the will of the people. And that's something that has been, it's just been absent from our executive leadership in the state for, as she outlines. We've had Republican rule going on almost 3 decades. So please, I just dropped my number, I dropped my email. Please use it. Let me know, what you are hearing, how you're experiencing this election, because just when I hear her speak, when I see her go in front of people, and then when I see what she does behind the scenes when I'm driving her around the state and we're just talking about policy, it's not an act, it's not a stump speech. It is, she's true to the what she presents, to the public. And that's why I joined this campaign, because I can't afford to waste, my advocacy on politicians who are not going to follow through and represent the people who are going to put them in office. And I'll tell you this right now, our communities in South Florida, in Miami-Dade, our Black, our Brown, our Hispanic, our Haitian communities, they are going to be the ones that will put her in office. And I can say that I will make it my mission to make sure that their desires and their needs are going to be met and will have a place, at the table. But yeah, so I dropped my email in there. So if you have a community, if you have a group that wants to speak with the commissioner, if you want to find out about volunteer opportunities, we can connect on those things. Verlance, I will get in contact with you, and we will definitely set that up. It may be a virtual meeting if that's okay, just because she is constantly zipping, up and down the state. But I don't know, did anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you again. And for everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I will be sending a copy of this because it is being recorded to all our members so they can listen to gubernatorial candidate Nikki Fried and get more information on Malcolm. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And if you guys look at the chat, you have his number, but if you don't, it's 561-603-9269, malcolm@nikkifried.com. Thank you again and good night.
Y'all have a lovely evening. God bless.